Hello, Elisha. We are back again. So you were just saying to me before we hit record that you think we should do this more often. Talk to me.
I think so, brother. I mean, I have fun when I do this with you. It's, we talk for hours anyway. Why not just record it?
So I've got a lot of things I would like to say, and we were just saying how we should probably sort of keep things light, etc. I completely agree. I want to just recap on the notes I gave you before we started this podcast. But before I do that, I just need to explain. I've got a cold today. I was filming a music video on a beach on the very bottom of England a few days ago, and I'm in my 50s now, and I had to carry a lot of camera kit. I was a director. I had to carry a lot of camera kit, had to keep the crew moving all the way down a cliffside. Then we were there all day. It was a beautiful shoot. But the consequences are that I am suffering from a bit of a cold and feeling a little bit run down. So that's me, Elisha. And then tomorrow I'm off to a 3-day sort of seminar about
sounds fun.
About
the beach experience sounds like a
amazing, and then the contrast. I'm sort of like
you got ill though.
I'm with politicians for the next 3 days, and
really?
I do it regularly. So an interesting week for me. But my point being was that what's your week been? What, since we've last talked, what have you been up to outside of this that you can share, or inside of this that you can share with us, so we can build more of an understanding of who's Ish?
Well, my life is pretty boring, I think, now. I'm a hospice doctor, so I've been pretty busy with rounding at hospitals and going to homes and going to nursing homes and ALS. I treat patients that are at the end of life.
That's tough.
So it's tough, but I bring an element of compassion and hope to these beautiful people. And, of course, I'm a family man. I have a beautiful wife, 3 beautiful children. 2 of my children, the first 2 are on the spectrum, so that comes with some challenges, but it's fun too. You take them to karate, music lessons, etc. Keeps them busy. I play basketball with my older son. He's 11 now, and he's a genius. Like, he plays 5 instruments. I think he wants to be a singer like me. Like, I'm a singer and I write songs, as you guys will. I think many people already know that I'm a musician too. And I guess once our first NFT is out, you get to hear me. Did you know that I'm singing in the NFT, brother?
I know, we cover that. I didn't know. Look, I wanted.
The Grammy winner wants me to sing in her song. She Kaya Jones insisted on that, by the way.
I want to just track back a bit, and I don't want to be morbid. Yeah. How do you stay positive when you're dealing with ultimately very, end of life situations?
Oh, well, in my personal belief, I believe that life is eternal. Now, I don't claim to know what exactly happens, because I believe we have to imagine more to really experience what life will be after this current life. I believe in God. I believe in the power of Jesus Christ in me. And for me, Jesus Christ stands for unconditional love. And I respect other people, their beliefs, and I just love people unconditionally as much as I can. It's interesting because even at the end of life, with these patients, they all come from different faiths, and there seems to be this peace that comes over everyone at that last few seconds before they fade. And I think being a hospice doctor just helps open up my views to respect everyone's beliefs, as there are different forms of belief in a higher power. But I believe that the higher power in us inspires us to love everyone as we would love ourselves, and that's powerful.
So that's a really good segue into what we were going to ultimately discuss today, which we said we should talk about Jacy Token. Now, Jacy Token, along with many cryptocurrencies, do not seem to have quite the same patience or the same, you know what I mean? Yeah. There isn't,
sure.
Many faiths don't seem to work together. Let's use a different, many perspectives don't seem to necessarily work together. It's all or nothing. I want to I'm going to the notes that I made earlier that I briefly discussed with you. I want to assume that everybody who's listening to this understands what you're saying. I want to assume that people like the ideas that you're putting forward, and I want to understand there's no hostility, there's no background, there's no history. This is a completely clean canvas. We're not educating anyone. What is your vision in 2024, March 2024, for Jacy Token? Because you've inherited, briefly explain in 1 minute how you've become this leader where you are now ultimately in charge of Jacy Token.
Well, I've always been a believer of the project. I was the charity governor in the past and was entrusted the contract to this token. And, the way I look at it, Jacy Token has many facets. And to keep it simple, I think there's value in giving any token utility. And for me, utility is just another word for purpose. So launching NFTs using the ecosystem, I think, is a very vital part of what we're trying to accomplish. I like NFTs because NFTs is protected liquidity. Tokens have volatility, especially when you have a token that's only held by a few hundred or a few thousand holders. A lot of tokens perhaps are 98% down from all-time highs. Even a token that may have had a 6 million market cap can be currently 30 million. For us, we were at 1.27 million, currently at 256,000. Now, it's because the liquidity is not much, especially when it's being shared by a small population. Now, it's a great opportunity because with the small population, anything that is bought now will be at a premium price. And I think it can position a person that's a holder of the token in a good way. They're definitely going to be in the top 3,000, as we currently have 3,000 wallets. In fact, it says 3,700. But I would say that there's probably 3,000 or less that are authentic holders of the token. If anything, maybe the top 1,000 have a good value. Now, what is my vision? Well, there's many possibilities, and our white paper does illustrate that. And I believe that holding Jacy Token as a utility gives the holder prizes or rewards. I like the word reward because based on position, based on someone's hold, it can determine perhaps a reward someone will have based on a liquidity stream that is being created or built. For instance, the NFT that we will release will have a liquidity stream where 10% of the gross sales will benefit the Jacy ecosystem, the other 90% charity. Now, with that is the wonderful possibility that all of it will be used in good wisdom, one, to perhaps generate more liquidity for the charity and generate more liquidity for the Jacy ecosystem.
So there were some really good points there, Elisha, and I get it. But I want to be a troubleshooter, as I always do. I'm always going to come in and say, okay, so now tell me about this. So I'm a marketer. I'm no financial expert. That said, I've worked with cryptocurrency since 2014. So we're talking a decade now. So when you get the liquidity and you're going to build a treasury fund, who makes the decisions as to what gets invested where? Because that seems to me like something that could be an area of exploit and an area of vulnerability.
Yeah. Well, great question, and I'm glad you asked. So the team leaders, and there's been many that come in and out, but I think we've all been in agreement with this, past, present, and I think future. And as the leader of this ecosystem, I will always fight for this. But the term is DAO. Okay, so I think the community should decide.
Yeah.
And DAO is the legal term for what we're trying to build. I want to kind of keep it simple for now because I think many people may not know what that word means.
That's fine. That's fine.
I think we will find means to inform people.
Tell me about. Tell me where you see the Jacy Token in a year's time from now.
Well, I would hope that the spirit of unleashing the gifts and talents of people, because I love people. I think people have many gifts and talents. Once they realize the power of blockchain technology and Web3 and utilizing like NFT technology, even tokenization of assets, I hope that many people will come on board and use the Jacy ecosystem or Jacy platform whatever it is that we are able to build, to unleash our gifts and talents. I think to begin with, it will probably deal with musicians who write original music. It will probably deal with artists. It will probably deal with authors. I already have something in mind. I know that I like making things personal, and this hasn't been a secret to you, but I have a very talented 13-year-old daughter who actually has already created 8 original characters for Jacy. And her heart is so good because she created these 8 characters, these 8 animals that are unwanted. like for instance, there's a raccoon because she feels that no one likes a raccoon because they have rabies. And so she made a raccoon one of the main characters of this world for the Jacy. And they're a group of unwanted animals that come together so they can love each other. So that's a future asset. So I see power in that, and maybe perhaps we can create an NFT that illustrates those 8 characters. I have a very talented AI artist named Chris that's on our team, and she can even turn them into 3-dimensional animated characters. I've already told her that, hey, you need to disciple my daughter. So we've had meetings on that. So, little things like that. So a year from now, I hope people are building with us. I got a guy that does spoken word, like poetry. I want to put some of his poetry to music and maybe some inspiring video content, perhaps that you can help me with. I know you create lots of inspiring content out there, David. And so perhaps I can, have you work with us on an asset that uses spoken word with music. And I can go on. I have friends who are artists, painters, and, I can go on. And we've discussed this. And I think it's good for the community to know that there's big plans when it comes to the utilization of the gifts and talents of wonderful individuals, such as yourself.
And tell me what you would have learned over the last. So we often talk about the future, but and I don't want to go too much on the past, but it's been a weird year for any sort of cryptocurrency at the moment,
Sure.
and very clearly it's turned within the last 2 or 3 weeks now.
Sure.
What's your current sentiment with sort of like today's current prices on things like Bitcoin, the shift in the interest again?
Sure. I've always been a dip buyer, so I do hold other tokens aside from Jacy. I'm a big investor, and a lot of my holds I really accumulated a lot from 2022 to 2023, and I expect the bull run to perhaps help nurture my investment quite handsomely. With regards to what I've learned in running a cryptocurrency project like this, it's very important to work with people that you can trust, and I think it's very important to meet people in person. I think past, present, and in the no future, like any person that works with a team, there will be personalities, there will be disagreements, there will be even fighting, and I think we learn with varying opinions that it's important to find a semblance of a vision, because without vision, a project can't really succeed. And so I believe I created a vision that this new team filled with many individuals who are working on different various projects can cultivate a culture of success and innovation. For instance, I'm already working with a team from the Philippines where we're having a documentary done on one of our charities in Pakistan. And so they're good friends of mine, and I saw a piece of work that they did, and it was just incredible. So I've hired them to do a documentary piece on one of our charities and just kind of seeing how it goes. Little things like that. So I believe that when we meet people, we bring the best out of them, and we find a way to utilize them in a way that is mutually beneficial.
Tell me a little bit about what surprised you this week with sort of like what token or project has like exploded that you didn't see coming, and which project has not moved in a way that you thought might?
Oh yeah, great question. Now, I was always a fan of several projects that, in my opinion, was under the radar. For instance, a project like Jasmy, right? A project like XCN, which is Onyx Protocol. So, those to me were tokens that went pretty high as far as the value. And both tokens are actually 98% down from inception. So they're not 98% down from all-time high. They're 98% down from inception. And so I bought the dips. Now, I could have bought a lower dip. I missed Jasmy when it was 0.001, and I got back in at 0.005 or something like that. And so because you miss those really low bottoms. However, I believe in tokens with good utility. I believe in befriending, developers or holders of other projects, because in my opinion, cryptocurrencies shouldn't really compete. We can all succeed together. We all have different visions. Where Jasmy is a data collector type of crypto, and Onyx Protocol is a lending protocol that can partner with multiple tokens and holding tokens, including Jacy, for instance. Where Jacy, we're a liquidity generating ecosystem through NFTs, art, talent, inspirational content. It's all different. To be honest, I'm just a passion of the technology, brother, because I see this as like opening doors to a metaverse, a world that's that's beyond the physical, and I see endless possibilities there. For instance, I'm a big fan of that movie Ready Player One. I mean, that world is coming. I mean, I believe it. There's companies that are creating immersive type of environments that will make it more fun, where a person can feel like they're climbing a mountain, or they're in on the moon. And it's fascinating to me that kind of technology exists these days.
I feel that I'm always a believer that be as transparent as you can be with any kind of project or work that you're doing.
Sure.
I feel that we locked horns this week, and I feel it's kind of needed to some degree. One of the areas that sort of like I was bringing up was like, as a sort of a leader of a project, how do you feel aligning or being sort of involved with other projects? Because you're not necessarily, it's not like if I do a business, let's say I make a music video, I listen to I get sent the song, I go down, I meet the artist, we spend some time together, we get to know each other, then we go out on a shoot, and it's all this sort of like rapport that you build up. It's got that energy of a new sort of a new connection of sort of two creative people. It's got that physical, spiritual kind of feeling about it. With crypto, it seems to be very much on Telegram or behind a Zoom call, you don't really have that sort of one-on-one connection. So the problem that I envisage from a marketing perspective is if you align on, how do I say, if you aren't extra cautious, you can potentially, and you're running a project which is down from its all-time high, significantly down, that you can also bring on additional problems with people that you don't really know. Give me what's your perspective on that? And different perspectives are good. We need different perspectives, so there is no right or wrong on this. But what are your thoughts on that? What's your side of the coin?
I think it's too new to make conclusions now on how best to move forward with any project. Now, I've learned a lot. I've learned to lean on people that I can trust. I like the fact that, for instance, you and I have daily conversations. I have daily conversations with Flower. We've seen each other's faces through Zoom and even various means. And I think now I see good possibility in being able to meet all of you guys. Like, in other words, if not for this project, we would have never met. So I just believe in the good side of humanity, where I think it's easy for us to fear the bad side of humanity. I think there's good and bad in everyone, but I want to unleash the good in everyone. Meaning, in time, I think the good will come out if you learn to love. And I think love always trusts, it hopes, it protects, it perseveres. And so that's the power of relationships. And I think just like in anything in history, the cream of the crop will always rise at the top. If a project is to succeed, it won't succeed on its own. It will succeed because of good people behind it. And that's where I'm at right now. I want to find good people that will allow for this project to fly, and hopefully fly on its own. There comes a time when even a person like me may not be necessary, meaning the ecosystem, the project, will fly on its own. Sort of like a Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't have any developer like running it. It's like a technology that's rampant on its own. Now, we are humanizing the blockchain because I think our branding capabilities, I think we've collected a team of very talented graphic designers, branders, videographers, documentary creators. And that inspires me, because I think there's power in the humanizing of the blockchain through good, positive content. And in order for artists or musicians to thrive, well, their art has to exist. And look, they can launch on their own, but with a team like us, I think we can launch it in excellence. We can brand it in good time. We can prepare it so that it lifts off in a way that makes it successful. And look, this first NFT that we're doing, right? It's featuring a rising star, someone that's an ex-Pussycat doll turned gospel singer, and so she's rebranding herself. She's redefining who she is. And I love what she's doing. She does a lot of humanitarian stuff all over the world. And this new brand of her, I think, is unleashing new music. And me as a co-writer of her songs is interesting where it's going, because I think we're kind of walking with her to elevate her brand. And in time, I hope we can do the same. I hope we can do the same for that 40-year-old singer that's down the street that maybe a label won't even give a second look at. But she can sing and she can write. Those are the kinds of people I'm looking to help. And I think the Jacy Project has great purpose in being able to find good talent and use it for their benefit and for the benefit of a community that reaps reward, like receiving royalties for original content.
The problem I have with this podcast is I could always talk for hours.
We can't always.
However, I feel that we should probably keep it within a manageable size. I would like to sign off. There are about 3 things. I'm going to quickly make notes. So the NFT this week. So what's been happening with the NFT since the last podcast? Where are we at with it? For anybody who hasn't listened, as you just gave a summary, but what are the facts, the information? What's happening with the NFT? What is it?
Yeah, I'm actually very excited with this NFT, which is an original animation video that utilizes the song called "Love Is the Answer," the Remedy. And we've been having a great time preparing the advertising of the asset. We've been creating banners. We created an addendum to the website. We're clarifying the definitions of the 90-10 split, 90% going to charity. What's exciting is we actually decided on a charity. I'm not sure if I've updated you that, but there's a charity called Feeding the Needy, which is a charity run by Rosa Sanchez of Central Florida. She lives in Kissimmee, Florida. And she brings these wonderful ladies. They go into the forest and bring food and sustenance provision, tents, to families and individuals that live in the forest. So Kaya felt that the song "Love Is the Answer" captures perhaps a story where homelessness can benefit. And Feeding the Needy is definitely a really good charity that can benefit. They're a very small charity. They don't even have a website. And so I think throughout this process, I want to elevate their brand too, maybe help them, bust them with a website, perhaps use this NFT that they'll reap benefits from to allow them to have more exposure and perhaps more stance in being able to provide homes and jobs for those that live in the woods here in Central Florida. I think it's a great decision by our influencer, Kaya Jones.
Good stuff. Tell me next, what are your thoughts on the crypto markets in the next week? By the way, this is no financial advice. We aren't gambling. There's none of that. But from a holding perspective, or maybe not from a holding perspective, just where do you see things going in the next few weeks? At the moment we're seeing a lot of green. Talk me through where you reckon.
Actually, I've been analyzing the markets myself, and it's interesting that Bitcoin did hit its all-time high before the Bitcoin halving. So that's kind of a first, if I'm not mistaken. I'm leaning on the research of others when they say that, only because I'm seeing posts that say that was a unique thing. Now, it did consolidate, and it may consolidate because every season, every 4 years, as Bitcoin halving occurs, there is a 20% consolidation right before the halving. So we may have that. So Bitcoin, did touch 69,000, and it could go down to 50,000. But what's interesting is it's kind of recovering. And so if it reaches all-time high again and it bounced back up, it will be kind of unique because it's never done that before. Meaning, reaching all-time high and exceeding all-time high before the Bitcoin halving, which, if my calculations are correct, it'll happen around late April, early May, maybe even June, depending on the buys. But with an increase in buys, it could happen like maybe in mid-April, And, of course, where Bitcoin goes, everything else follows. And so it is interesting. I do hold other tokens that I believe in at lower market cap, because I think that there's more potential in lower market cap tokens. I'm seeing a lot of green. So the altcoin season has begun, in my opinion. Now, there was a little bit of a consolidation today. I think, for those that are watching this, there was an outage on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Elon Musk was happy because only Twitter, I think, survived the thing. But I think that after that, when there was a couple hours of outage, were you aware, David, that this happened?
No, I wasn't aware. I knew that.
Yeah.
No.
So with the outage, I think then the crypto prices started dropping. I think there was some fear, and I think the outage of the different social platforms, because about a few hours later, people were cashing out. So when you have perhaps big holders start selling, everyone follows. So it's like follow the crowd, follow the flow, right? Now, I think we as individuals should be able to think on our own. I'm a long-term holder. I accumulate and buy the dips. I don't need to cash out anything at this time. So I'm not a day trader. I do believe in the power of the technology, and I hold these tokens in the way of accumulation during the bear market. But I believe in what it can do for the sake of the technology. I like what different projects are doing because they're unique all on their own. They're not just about, buying the token and elevating its price. It's about having a token with utility and great purpose using blockchain technology and Web3 to have, a reason for existence. On its protocol is a lending protocol in the blockchain. Jacy is a collector of data and information where private data is secure and protected. Some people say Jacy is the Bitcoin of Japan. And the Jacy project, JC, well, we believe in unleashing the gifts and talents of wonderful individuals and using our talents as branders to enhance the influence of that talented and gifted person. So endless possibilities in the blockchain, and I like navigating these possibilities, working with talented people like you, brother.
And finally, well, thank you very much. And finally, final thoughts. So you kind of wrapped that up. I was going to say final thoughts. Current status with the Jacy project. Where are we going next couple of weeks before the next podcast? What's happening?
Well, I really like the process of preparing this asset. I will say, in complete transparency and honesty here, the way this asset is being prepared has been very brilliant. For instance, you would find little things that could have been missed. Whether it's the sound quality in the video or a certain word in an ad, those things are priceless to me, especially with the expertise that you bring in. And so I think it's been fun preparing the asset. And also for the audience, this is not a live or die for the project. In fact, if anything, this is kind of a test. It's a one-matic, right, NFT. And I think since the last podcast, let's clarify, we're going to limit the NFT from 1 million to 10,000. So that's been a big change.
Oh, yeah.
It's a big change only because OpenSea, that's the maximum on a video, according to OpenSea for now, 10,000, for pre-minted NFTs. The reason we went for the pre-minted is because we want to just make this as easy as possible for the 96% of the world that's not even in the blockchain. We determined in the last podcast, as you remember, we discussed that it was far difficult for many people to participate in the RABBLE passes, and many of the same people just bought the same ones over and over again because it was far too difficult for them to learn to mint on their own. So, we're going to, excuse me for saying that, we're going to dumb it down. And so we're basically going to unleash this NFT on OpenSea. It'll be already minted and people will just buy it. But what's good is it extends our hands and feet to the Matic platform. And we chose Matic because it only costs cents to buy. The gas fees of Ethereum has been astronomical, brother. I bought some of these tokens, and there was one token that I bought. It was like $100 for the gas fee. It was crazy, you know. And so we went with Matic because it'll just be for something that costs literally around $1. You know, I think Matic is $1.07 last time I checked. It would make sense for gas fees to be more than the actual asset. So with Matic, it'll cost like cents, 2 to 3 cents to purchase the asset. So, you know, big names, big brands like Walt Disney World and Starbucks use Matic Polygon. Hey, I like Mark Cuban, you know, the guy from the Shark Tank. You know, he uses Matic too for his product. So I like that we're on the Jacy project has an alignment with the Matic blockchain. Or, you know, I mean, Matic uses Ethereum, I know, but it's another layer to the Ethereum blockchain. And I think in time, Matic, I think Polygon will be its own blockchain, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that.
You mentioned something that really I don't want to bring up, but I feel we so should bring up. From a marketing perspective, I feel that it would be unfair to our old community if we didn't address this in 1 minute, because we said about 15 to 20 minute podcast. We're at over half an hour already. In 1 minute, can you briefly, are you in a position to tell us anything about the current status with the RABBLES, what old holders, people who bought Rabble passes, a couple of people mentioned, and you know, and I want to give those credit. I want to give credit. If those people are listening now, we hear you big time. Do not think that we are ignoring you. We are constantly 24/7 trying to find a balance on what we do in a fair, honest, respectful way to everyone involved. So, you know, it's a vulnerability, it's a weakness. People jump on those weaknesses, and these are our weaknesses. So, 1 minute, Ish. What can you explain?
All right. So 1 minute. So the contract to Jacy and the contract to the RABBLES were given to two separate individuals. You know, Jacy was given to me, and the RABBLES was given to a good friend, Tracy. You know, so with that separation, you know, the person receiving the contract is only aware of the specifics of that contract and its assets. Now, I love the RABBLES. I'm a fan of the RABBLES. I hold several RABBLE passes. Now, there were differences in philosophy between Tracy and I, and there were some disagreements, and often heated disagreements, but we're resolving a lot of that now. You know, I love Flower because Flower, who's also part of the dev team, is kind of like a middle person between all of us. You know, we're all strong-minded individuals with perhaps different opinions. I will assure the Jacy community that the passes that they hold for the RABBLES are intact. You know, Tracy is just being extra safe. He believes that the NFT market is still kind of recovering, and so he's still timing the asset release, and he's still working some kinks with the asset, fixing the stories, I think grammar, making it more relevant to the community. And so he's working with actually another developer, a brilliant developer who I've met myself, and perfecting the asset. And so, you know, that's his asset. He has the leadership for it. And, you know, in the conversation that Tracy has had with Flower, you know, I am confident in what Tracy and his team are doing with the RABBLES. And I believe they will release it when they feel it's perfected and it's an excellence. In the same way that I'm now running the Jacy project and all its ideas and creating a team around it, I have the freedom to do things in excellence. And so right now, let's just wait with what is being prepared for the RABBLES, and I trust that it's in good hands.
Okay. And so for anyone who does own a RABBLE pass from the old sort of Jacy Token days, where should they go? What should they do?
Well, they already hold it. And so there were promises for... I
mean, for information. Utility. For information, do they come to our communities? Is it...
Well, as it stands, it's sort of separate now. I guess it's free to, you know, I'm able to update this, but Flower has spoken to Tracy. Tracy is aware that there are questions, and he is preparing a statement that we can post in our community regarding the status of the RABBLES. That's the last I heard. That was as of yesterday. Any final word before we go? No, you know, I'm excited. Again, I really like these podcasts. I think if we did this more often, there would be less confusion. I will say this. I think miscommunication, misunderstanding is so easy when you're dealing with people that maybe you've never met in person, or you're dealing with a community of like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people. Imagine a community with 10,000 or 1 million people like SHIB. And so I think communication is so vastly important, and podcasts like this and official announcements that are created on a regular basis are so fundamentally important in keeping a community intact and in the same vision.
I would like to acknowledge anyone who is still listening to this podcast. Please do us a favor, because you obviously are invested in this project personally. You're obviously listening. We need your help. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like, tell us what you want us to talk about, etc. Because there won't be many people that actually make it through to the end. So if you are listening, really, really, hi, how are you doing? We really, really value you listening.
Yes.
I'm going to sign off. Elisha, one final sentence. Go.
Well, everyone is important.
Love is the answer.
Love is the answer. Okay.
So as your marketing guy, if ever anybody says one final sentence, you go, love is the answer. That's the new
Love
NFT.
is the answer.
I'm playing with you.
I like it.
All right, Elisha, I'm going to leave it at that. Take care. Pleasure.
God bless you.
Speak soon. Take care. Bye-bye.